It's great to see you all today. So, um, just to give you a little bit of background to Victor, many years ago now, in 2017-18, I was employed 1 day a week by NHIR to develop a research impact tool that organisations could use to collect impact data when they have done a research project or been involved in someone else's study. A colleague of mine from Mid Yorks Trust, Judith, and I worked on that over a year, 1 day a week, and we worked with 12 organisations across Yorkshire Humber to help us develop the tool. And it was rigorously tested in different organisations. And what we developed was a framework for the domains of impact that we are likely to see when you have research happening within clinical teams, in services, and in organisations. So the domains of impact is the framework of Victor, and then we have developed a questionnaire tool to draw out the specific impacts relevant to those domains. So that's what Victor is for, and although it has been used by different people in different ways, and we'll get to that towards the end, and I'll tell you a bit more about how other people are using Victor as well as what it was intended to be used for. So I'm going to go to the live demo now. So I'm going to do a screen share, and I'll talk through how Victor works. Please feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question as we go along, but there will be an opportunity for a Q&A at the end as well. So hopefully you can all see on your screens the Victor dashboard. So when you dial into Victor, you will see 4 portals in front of you. The first portal is where your organisational information is stored. The second is where you set up projects and all your projects sit. The third is really where the magic happens in Victor. It's the data curation, collection and development of the report portal. And the fourth portal is an admin log, and it's purely a log of who's using Victor within your organisation. And it has names and times and dates of people using the system, so it's purely administrative. So this is what it looks like when you have an account. So first of all, we'll go into manage organisation. So when you set up the account, you provide us with a logo for your organisation. So here you can see the account organisation name and the logo that's been provided. And then below this are the names of people within an organisation that have been added to that organisational account. So if you have an account, you can add as many people as you like to your organisational account, and they will all be able to use Victor. We are doing an update to Victor, which is being worked on currently and is coming very soon. And the change that will happen is that anybody who sets up a project can invite people from their organisation to that project, and only the people they invite will be able to see that project information. And that might mean that you can have multiple users in your organisation, but there are only certain users allowed to see certain projects. At the moment, there is a system in place for permissions, which runs very similar, but it has lots of different options. So we are simplifying that system, and I'll talk you through what that looks like now. You will not notice any difference when you log on to Victor. It will just mean that there is the sort of coding behind that means that if you're added to a project, you can only see that project, so it won't make any difference to you. So how to add people to your organisation? I'm going to come to you, Sally. I can see you've got your hand up. is you click on this add users. And if you want to add people to your organization, you pop their email address in, press submit, and then you can select the role. Now, when we simplify this in the next month, you will only have the organizational admin. It'll be called organizational user role. So that is the only role that you will allocate, and that person will have access to the organizational account and to the projects that they've been invited to. At the moment, we have different roles with different permissions, and when you set up an account with Victor, you are given some information which describes the permissions for those different levels of access. So before we move any further, Sally, do you want to come in with your question?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, does it matter? So with our organisation that we are in, we've got different members who are from different organisations as part of our policy research unit. Does that matter? And also, does it have to be an NHS.net account that can be added to this, or is it much broader than that?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question for clarification. It doesn't matter. Any email can be added to Victor. It's not discriminatory. So you can use googlemail.com emails and things, because essentially when you send out your questionnaires to the people that you want to complete the tool, that could be somebody in a commercial study, it could be an academic partner, it could be a commercial partner. And we do have the option to send out a patient, family and carer questionnaire. So you would use personal email addresses for that. So yeah, it's any email address can be used. It doesn't discriminate against a certain type. Thanks, Sally, for that question. So organizational users, you add people to your organization, and currently you give them a role. So if you give someone organizational admin, they have permissions to do everything in Victor. There's nothing that they cannot do. Okay. If you give them service evaluator role, they can only go into the section where they can evaluate the questionnaires coming back. They cannot set up projects, and they can't change the organizational information. And then we have other roles that you would, as you add users to your account, if you want them to complete a questionnaire, you will add them as a questionnaire participant. Okay. So what we're doing is just simplifying that whole process. But this is where you basically have your organizational information, and this is where you add people to the organization. Okay. So we're now going to go into the project. Okay. So if I was going to set up a new project, I would just click on create project, and a new project would open, and then I would be able to populate that project with information. I'm going to show you one that I've already set up. Okay, so I'm just going to go into edit. So here we can see a project that is about breakfast group interventions in stroke rehabilitation. So the title of the project is there, and you can see that the project is active. If you make the project inactive, you will not be able to access the project, and nobody else will be able to access the project. So, for example, if you have done a project, completed your data and developed your brief summary impact report, and you no longer want to have that project accessible by the people you invited to it, you just make it inactive, and then nobody else can access that information. But it doesn't get deleted from Victor. Nothing ever gets deleted. So there's no danger of losing it. And if you wanted to come back to it at any point, you can make it active. So in your project section, you upload your logo for your project, which might be a funder logo, because you can have two logos on the report, and then you would put in some other details about the project. So If you have an IRES number, you can pop that in. If you don't, and you don't populate this box, it won't pull through to the final report. If you have another reference number that you want to pop in there, like an organisational reference number, you can do. It's just for those purposes of keeping track of the studies that you use, that you look at in Victor. And then there is some categories of the types of study. So there's a drop-down box. And then the notification email. So the notification email is the email that you want the notifications of completion of a questionnaire to come to. Now, in some organisations, they've actually set up an inbox for Victor, and they put the email of the inbox there. And then when someone completes a questionnaire and presses submit, the notification comes to that email box. It's a good way to sort of keep it separate from your everyday emails, but that's totally up to you. The next bit down below is where you create 2 bespoke thank you messages that will automatically be sent to the person once they have completed a questionnaire. So you can see here you've got type 1 and type 2. So the type 1 questionnaire is a questionnaire that you send to any healthcare professional, researcher, research partner who will have a view on the impact of your research study. The second questionnaire, type 2 questionnaire, just comprises 3 questions, and that questionnaire is sent to patients, families and carers. If you don't want to use that questionnaire, you don't have to. It's totally up to you, but it's there if you want to use that to get additional data about the study from a number of patients, carers or families involved in it. Okay, so once you have set up your project, obviously you press save, and that saves that data. And then the below section for the project is where you can also invite new users to the organization. You can also assign people to a project. So here you can see there's 2 of us that are able to manage the data that's coming back in the questionnaire. I I have set up the project, but I've also given myself permission to evaluate the data. And this is where we are simplifying the permissions. So in Victor going forward, everybody who is invited to the project that has a organizational user role will be able to access the project data. Okay. So below that, you will be able to see if you've sent out questionnaires, who you've sent them to, the type 1 and the type 2. That's only shows the returned questionnaires. So you know at a glance, if you sent out 20 questionnaires, you'll be able to see you've got 4 back. So it's a good way to keep track of that. Okay. So the next portal is really where the magic happens for Victor. So let's go into there. So the first page of the portal is a collation of data. So here you can filter by the project. You can also download an Excel spreadsheet of all of the questionnaire data that has come back into the system. If you wanted to do that, you know, that data can be downloaded if you wanted to use it in another way, it's all there for you to do that. The project data is just a summary of the responses. So here we've got the tabs of the domains of impact. You can transverse through these at the top and you can see the questions underneath. So in knowledge generation and knowledge exchange, there are 3 questions. Have there been any dissemination events, presentations, conferences or publications about the study within the organisation or externally? Have any tools useful for practice been developed by the research that the organisation is now using, and are there any new ways of sharing knowledge within the organisation or between your organisation and others as a result of the research. So what you will see is a collation of the yes, no, not yet, not answered responses, which you can do something with if you so wish. Now imagine you sending out 20 questionnaires and you get 20 responses and everyone says yes to the first question, then you will be able to say 100% of the people that you sent the questionnaire to said yes, there have been dissemination, presentation and conferences or publications. So you can see how you can use the quantitative data. Now, in future versions of Victor, I'm hopeful that we can add in another function that will create some nice charts and graphs for this section, but it currently doesn't exist. So if you wanted to do that, you would need to do that separately. What Victor does do is collect the narrative data of impact, which is where you build your visual summary, and that's in the next section under visual summaries. So you can create as many summaries as you want with the data that's returned. So here you can see for this project, I've created 12 summaries. I've been using this for training, so there are a lot of different versions there. So let's go in and have a look at some project summaries that are already in progress, and I'm going to show you one that is complete. So every summary in Victor looks the same. You have the front page with the information on it and your 2 logos, and then you have 6 domains of impact and a 7th domain called anything else. So you can see on this one the information that I collated from the questionnaires that were sent out to patients, staff and research team members and PIs and all sorts of people involved in this study. I was able to populate these domains of impact with some really good impact examples. So for example, research profile. The study was presented at 3 international conferences and won 2 prizes, one for personalised care and one for patient and public involvement. So this is what your impact summary looks like as you complete it. If you populate the template with the anything else box, that will also show on this summary, but I haven't done that for this version. I'm going to show you another one now in semi-completion. So here you can see I've just populated the first box. So that's all that is showing on the report. Now, what I'm going to do now is show you how to edit and create a summary. So in the edit summary section, the domains of impact sit at the top. You can transverse through these and you can also move in and out of them all of the time, because sometimes people put impacts and they relate to another domain, so you can move across and move information from different domains. What sits underneath this section is the questionnaires that have been completed. So here's one that I completed for this particular study. We click on the questionnaire and it opens, and then we can see the responses. So if I transverse through the domains at the top, you'll be able to see my responses change below. So if you wanted to start by looking at, for example, research profile, you can open each questionnaire and see what's been said about research profile, and then you can build that section of the report. So let's do that now. So as a result of this study, the primary principal investigator from Site 1 is thinking about doing more research in the future and looking for research awards to support her development. So that might be a nice impact to put into research profile, or it might be something that I put into another section. But I'm going to choose research profile because I think it fits nicely there. So I come up into this box, give it an asterisk and pop the impact there. So the impact data, you have 550 characters and you can curate this however you like. You can edit it. So let's have a look. The PI from SCI 3 wants to be a PI for more studies and making plans to access the NHR Primary Investigator Programme. So let's pop that one up there too, because that's a nice capacity building impact. Okay, so I'm going to save that, and that then takes me on to the next domain. So that information is there. So I'm just going to go back now, and I'm going to preview the summary. And you can see how the impact data is starting to build. Oh, sorry, I've not gone into the questionnaire that I was working on. I think it might be this one. Yeah, so there you can see I've now got something in the research profile box. You can keep editing this, you can come back to it at any time, you can keep it there forever. There is an opportunity when you go into the edit section that you can complete and submit a report. Once you do that, that locks down the report forever. You cannot get back into it, you cannot make changes to it. So in my view, it's best not to do that because you might want to continue to tweak different reports, or you could just generate a new report. But there is an option to lock down a report once you're really happy with it. So in this section where you're editing the summary, you would put in a little name for the study, which will show on the front page of the report. You can adjust the dates here of when you sent the questionnaire out, and that will all pull through. So below, all of the return questionnaires will show in this box. The questionnaires that have been to patients, families and carers will also show below here, and you'll be able to see their answers to the 3 questions as well. So here, if we look at this one, was sent out to a patient, a carer actually, were there any changes to the care you received because you were taking part in the study? On this occasion, she has put no. Have you learned anything new? No. And are there any better connected? No. So very brief answers. There is also a narrative section, but on this occasion they didn't add anything in. So at the end of the day, the more people put, obviously the more data you've got and the more helpful it is. Some people will do the bare minimum and others will give you lots of rich data, and that's why sending to 10 or more is a really good idea. So that is how you build a report, and that is how, once you've built the report, so if we go into preview summary, you can now see the PDF of the report. All you have to do is click on this and go to save, and then you can save that in a memory stick or a hard drive somewhere, and then it's a PDF that you can use, that you can send to other people, and that contains all of your impact data. And you can see in this one I've used the anything else box for something that perhaps didn't fit into the 6 domains, and that's showing there on that report. And that is Victor. That's as simple as it is to use. The final portal is just the administration logs of people coming in and out of the study.